A 9-year-old girl wakes up in the middle of the night. Outside, a storm is raging. The power has already gone out once. The wind is shaking the house, and the highway nearby is pitch black. Yet somehow, this little girl quietly gets out of bed, leaves her home, and begins walking alone into the darkness. No coat, no flashlight, no explanation. Several drivers will later report seeing a small child walking along the roadside in the early hours of the morning. And then she vanishes. To this day, no one knows why Asha Degree left her home that night or what happened after she disappeared into the storm. Asha Degree was the kind of child every parent hopes for. Quiet, responsible, and incredibly well-behaved. She lived with her parents and older brother in the small town of Shelby, North Carolina. Her father, Harold Degree, worked long hours to support the family. Her mother, Aquila Degree, was known for running a strict but loving household. The family lived a simple life. Church on Sundays, school during the week, basketball practice after class. Asha loved sports, especially basketball. Her teammates described her as shy but determined. Even when she lost a game, she never stayed upset for long. She was 9 years old. Still young enough to sleep with the lights on when storms rolled through town. Still young enough to need reassurance from her parents when thunder shook the windows. Which is what makes what happened next so difficult to understand. Because nothing about Asha's personality suggested she would ever run away. Especially not alone. And definitely not in the middle of a violent storm. The date was February 13th, 2000. A cold Sunday night in Shelby, North Carolina. Earlier that evening, Asha and her brother had watched television before heading to bed around 8 p.m. At some point during the night, the power went out briefly due to strong winds. Around 2:30 a.m., Asha's father returned home from work. He checked on his children. Both were asleep. Everything seemed normal. Nothing out of place. But sometime between 2:30 a.m. and 6:30 a.m., something happened. Investigators believe Asha quietly packed a small backpack. Inside were personal items, including clothes and possibly a few belongings important to her. Then she left the house. No signs of forced entry, no struggle, no noise that woke her family. She simply walked out the door and into the storm. At around 3:30 a.m., a truck driver was traveling along North Carolina Highway 18. The rain was coming down hard. Visibility was poor. But as the headlights cut through the darkness, the driver noticed something strange, a small figure walking along the side of the road. At first, he thought it might be a woman fleeing a domestic dispute, but as he got closer, he realized something chilling. It was a child. The driver turned his truck around to check on her, but when he approached, the girl suddenly ran off the road and disappeared into the woods. At the time, the driver had no idea he had just seen Asha Degree. It wasn't until later that morning when news spread about a missing 9-year-old child that the driver contacted police. And he wasn't the only one. Another motorist had also reported seeing a young girl walking along the same highway that night. Both sightings placed Asha miles away from her home, walking alone in the dark. When Asha's mother went to wake her for school at 6:30 a.m., the bed was empty. At first, she thought Asha might be in another room, but within minutes, panic set in. The backpack was gone, the house had been locked, and Asha was nowhere to be found. Police quickly launched a massive search across Shelby, North Carolina. Volunteers combed through forests, helicopters scanned the area, dogs attempted to track her scent, but the storm from the night before had washed away most potential evidence. Still, investigators began piecing together clues. The eyewitness sightings on North Carolina Highway 18 confirmed Asha had been walking south from her home. Search teams focused on the wooded areas along that route. Then they made a strange discovery. Inside a nearby shed, searchers found items believed to belong to Asha. Among them were candy wrappers and a pencil, objects that suggested she had briefly taken shelter there during the storm, but there was no sign of where she went afterward. And then the trail went cold. For months, investigators had no answers, until a shocking discovery over a year later. In August 2001, construction workers made a disturbing discovery. While digging near a highway construction site in Burke County, North Carolina, they uncovered a plastic bag buried in the ground. Inside was a backpack. The backpack belonged to Asha Degree. It had been carefully wrapped in 2 plastic garbage bags before being buried, which raised an unsettling possibility. Someone had intentionally hidden it. Inside the backpack were several items, but there were also things investigators could not explain. Among them, a photograph of a young girl no one could identify. The child in the photo was not Asha. Police released the image hoping someone would recognize her, but no one ever did. Even more disturbing, the location where the backpack was buried was nearly 30 miles from Asha's home, far too far for a 9-year-old to have walked alone, which meant one thing. At some point after leaving the highway, someone likely picked her up. More than 20 years have passed since Asha Degree disappeared. Despite thousands of tips, countless searches, and years of investigation, no one has ever been arrested. The case remains one of the most haunting unsolved child disappearances in American history. Investigators believe Asha may have entered a vehicle willingly, possibly believing she was being helped, but the identity of that person remains unknown. The mystery only deepens with the question that still has no answer. Why did she leave home in the first place? Was she meeting someone? Was she lured out? Or did something happen that night that no one else saw? Imagine driving down a dark highway at 3:30 in the morning, rain pounding against the windshield, thunder cracking across the sky, and suddenly your headlights reveal a small child walking alone through the storm. That image still haunts the drivers who saw her, because somewhere beyond that stretch of highway, Asha Degree vanished. No footprints, no witnesses, no answers, just a backpack buried miles away, and a mystery that has refused to fade for over 20 years. And perhaps the most chilling thought of all, someone out there knows exactly what happened that night. They've just never told anyone. If you enjoy true crime stories like this, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story so more people hear about cases that still need answers. Because sometimes, the smallest clue shared by the right person can finally solve a mystery that's been silent for decades.